At exactly 3:17 in the morning, the security camera detected movement. Now, the problem wasn't the movement itself. The problem was the location. That hallway, it didn't exist. Mark had lived alone in his apartment for nearly 3 years. It was a quiet place, small, clean, predictable. One bedroom, one bathroom, one living room, and one short, simple hallway connecting everything together. He knew every square inch of it, or at least, he thought he did. The noises started subtly. At first, they were easy to write off. A soft creak from the floorboards, a distant thump from somewhere in the building. Just the kind of sounds you'd expect old buildings to make in the dead of night, but over time, they became more specific. More deliberate. He started hearing footsteps. Slow, heavy, and methodical, they always stopped right outside his bedroom door. And they always happened at the exact same time, 3:17 a.m. That was when Mark decided to install security cameras. He put one in the living room, one in the hallway, and one pointed directly at his bedroom door. He told himself it was just for peace of mind. Just to prove, once and for all, that there was nothing there. It was all in his head. For the first few nights, nothing happened. The footage showed exactly what Mark expected to see. Empty rooms, still, silent shadows, complete and utter silence. He almost convinced himself he'd imagined the whole thing. Then, on the fourth night, the camera picked something up. At 3:17 a.m., the hallway camera activated. The image was grainy, tinted a ghostly green by the night vision. The hallway looked normal at first glance, same walls, same worn-out carpet. Same closed doors to the bedroom and bathroom, but then, a shadow appeared. It moved slowly across the frame, stretching unnaturally along the wall, impossibly tall and thin. But what made Mark's stomach tighten into a cold, hard knot wasn't the shadow itself. It was where the shadow was coming from. Behind it was a door. A narrow, dark door at the very end of the hallway. A door that had never been there before. Mark's hand trembled as he paused the footage. He rewound it. He watched it again and again. There was no mistaking it. The door was clear as day. It looked ancient, made of old, dark wood, covered in strange stains and slightly warped, as if it had been standing there for decades, soaking in the building's history. But Mark knew that wall. He looked at that wall every single day. There was no door. There had never been a door. The next morning, as soon as the sun was up, Mark inspected the entire apartment. He ran his hands along the smooth, painted surface of the hallway walls, solid, perfectly smooth, no seams, no hidden panels, not a single mark to suggest a hidden opening. He let out a nervous, shaky laugh, blaming it all on exhaustion and a vivid imagination. Maybe the camera had glitched. That night, he barely slept a wink. He lay in bed, his ears straining in the silence, his eyes wide open in the dark. Right on schedule, at 3:17 a.m., the sound returned. This time, it was louder, closer. It was a slow, dragging noise, like long fingernails being scraped slowly across a wooden surface. Mark stayed completely frozen in his bed, staring at the dark outline of his bedroom door, his heart hammering against his ribs. Then, silence. In the morning, his hands shaking, he checked the footage. The hallway camera showed the door again, but it looked closer this time, larger. The shadow was standing right in front of it, completely unmoving. And then, for just a single, terrifying frame, the shadow's head turned. It turned toward the camera, toward him. That's when he noticed something else, something carved into the wood of the mysterious door. Letters. Mark zoomed in, squinting at the screen until the image broke apart into a mess of pixels. But it was still legible. The carving read, Mark. His heart began to race. He shot up from his chair and searched the apartment again, but this time, it was frantic, aggressive. He moved furniture. He knocked on every inch of the walls, listening for a hollow sound. He pulled shelves and bookcases away from the walls. When he reached the heavy wardrobe in his bedroom, his hand froze. He felt it, a faint but distinct draft of cold air coming from behind it. With a surge of adrenaline, Mark pushed the heavy wardrobe aside, and there it was, the door. Exactly like it looked in the footage, old, dusty, impossibly narrow. There was no handle, no lock. Just a flat, dark wooden surface with his name carved deep into it, as if scratched out by something sharp and desperate. Mark stumbled backward, his breath catching in his throat. This wasn't possible. The layout of the apartment, the building's blueprints. None of it made sense with a door in this spot. Whatever was behind that door, it couldn't exist. It was an architectural impossibility. That night, Mark didn't turn the cameras off. He didn't even try to sleep. He sat in the living room, every light in the apartment blazing, his eyes glued to the monitors. 3:16 a.m. The air in the room grew cold, the kind of cold that seeps into your bones. 3:17 a.m. On the screen, the door, the one in the impossible hallway, slowly, silently, creaked open all by itself. At the exact same moment, the same creaking sound echoed from his bedroom, from behind the wardrobe. Mark didn't move. He couldn't. His body was locked in place by pure terror. The camera showed only darkness beyond the open door. Not just shadows, something deeper, thicker, an absolute void. Then, the camera feed dissolved into a screen of shrieking static. The lights in the apartment flickered wildly. And then the smell hit him, the coppery scent of metal. The dry scent of ancient dust. And something else, something old and rotten. Against every survival instinct screaming in his mind, Mark stood up. His legs felt weak and disconnected, like they belonged to someone else, as he walked slowly toward the bedroom. He approached the wardrobe. The door behind it was open now, revealing a narrow, dark room beyond. He hesitated for only a second before stepping inside. The space was larger than it should have been. The walls stretched farther than the physical dimensions of his apartment allowed. The air was cold and heavy, pressing down on his chest, making it hard to breathe. And the walls were covered in photographs. Hundreds of them, all of them were of him, Mark. There were photos of him sleeping in his bed, sitting on his couch, brushing his teeth in the morning, watching TV late at night. Some were taken from strange angles, from high up in the corners of rooms he didn't recognize. Others were taken from just inches away, so close he could see the pores on his skin. In one horrifying photo, he was asleep, but his eyes were half open, staring directly, glassily, into the camera lens. His hands began to shake uncontrollably. He walked deeper into the impossible room, noticing dates handwritten beneath each and every photograph, months, years. It was a complete timeline of his life in this apartment, a secret, intimate documentary of his existence, recorded without his knowledge. At the far end of the room, one photograph was framed and much larger than the rest. It was dated for tomorrow. The image showed his apartment's hallway. The impossible door was standing wide open, and someone was stepping out of it. Someone tall, smiling, someone wearing Mark's face. A sound echoed from behind him, footsteps, slow, deliberate, familiar. Mark spun around. The room was empty. He ran. The next morning, the apartment was quiet. The door was gone. The wardrobe stood flush against the wall again. No gaps, no drafts, no sign of what had been there. The cameras were still working, but the footage from the previous night ended abruptly at 3:17 a.m. The final frame showed the hallway, empty, except for one thing. A tall, thin shadow, standing exactly where Mark should have been. The security cameras are still recording, day and night. The door may be gone, but Mark has never been seen again.